Hello everybody and a very warm welcome to Ringside State of the Week. I'm Andy Clark and this week we have got not one but two former WBO Cruiserweight Champions of the world in Enzo Maccarinelli and Johnny Nelson. And these two both had very interesting careers and it almost saw them clash in the ring, almost but not quite. So let's start with that. Let's rewind to 2005. You'd had differing kind of careers up until that point, differing styles. How would you have described yourself at that stage, Enzo?
Young, dumb, and I just loved what I did. I was a fighter. I could box in the gym, but someone come over me in the ring, and I just used to I knew I had God-given power, and I just used to like to use it.
Johnny, you'd been around the block more times than Enzo by that stage. You'd had some tough experiences, some real learning experiences, some pretty remarkable experiences that we'll get onto a little bit later on. How were you? How was your mindset at that point?
At that point, I thought once I won the world title, I believed I was the best in the world. There's not many fighters that are out there that are called world champions and actually believe they are the best in the world. When I became world champion, I believed I was the best. I'd heard about Enzo. I'd watched Enzo. I was kind of a fan of Enzo, and I think he was being pushed heavily by ITV at the time, and I kept my eye on him. But the last time I boxed on ITV was in 1990 when I boxed Carlos Stalin, the famous board draw. That year it was the highest sporting viewed figure on TV. That fight, and it was the worst fight in my life. And so that's what the ITV audience remembered me as. So when they started to move the possibility of me and him fighting, I thought, I've now got a chance to let these ITV viewers see the difference between 1990 and beating the guy they've built up. Because I thought Enzo was good, but I didn't think he realised how good he was. I thought, if I'm going to get him, I've got to get him now, before he realises what I'm. He's got a few holes, he's a bit gung-ho, he can bang, but he leaves himself open, he's a chancer. And it was about, in our head, we thought, frustrated, let him make a mistake, then pick him off. And that's what we were thinking. But we knew the dangers of it. But in my head, that was going to be my last fight. In my head, I knew it got to the point, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning when I get up to go for a run. Now it got to stage at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd be in bed thinking, nah, I can't be bothered. So I knew that buzz, that sting had gone. So I thought, I'm going to retire after I boxed Enzo. It was in my head to do that anyway, no matter what, win or lose. And the last time I boxed, we were on the same bill in Italy, in Rome. Yeah, in Rome. And he watched me, I watched him, and he's just told me now, he thought, after I saw that fight, I knew I'd do you.
It's funny how these things happen though, isn't it? Because that kind of circumstance means that you're circling a little bit. You might be looking over your shoulder thinking, I might need to fight him at some point. You're looking at him thinking, I definitely want to fight him at some point. So you're at different stages. You'd had that WBU title, which at the time you had it was a good title. Like Hatton had one, Gomez had one, Farnell had one. It really worked for people in terms of the exposure.
Yeah, it was just a way of fighting boys better than if we didn't have a title. You know, we earned me a couple of quid at a young age, and it got me more experience. And like Johnny said, ITV was pushing a fight to see me coming through. You know, I was excited to watch. I always put everything on the line. You know, Johnny's the established world champion, and you know that's what they were going for. Now, my sort of style, I think, I wouldn't say I beat Johnny at any stage of his career, and my sort of style would cause problems to anyone, if I'm honest. But that night I seen him against Cantatore, for that moment in time, that's when I knew, yes, I win that fight.
I can remember taking you when you came up to do some filming
on the pads,
with your gym on the pads. And I'm quite sure you were thinking something in your head at the same time. So I thought, I'll take him on the pads, see what he's got. And he dug a shot, it was a body shot. I thought, well, he can dig a little bit here. And I'm trying to just figure out his time and see what he's got. But then I thought, he's not stupid. He's not going to show me anything that I can feed off here. But so we probably both knew it was going to happen in watching each other's movements, what we do in and out of the ring at that time. And so I kind of had a rough idea. I could see us two clashing eventually down the line. But I actually liked him. And so when it came to our...
He was all right.
But when it came to our fight and I was in hospital, I thought, I was devastated. And I'd snapped the patella tendon in my knee. My last sparring session, I thought, this is the best I've ever felt. I cannot wait for this fight. Knee snapped, I'm in hospital. I phoned him. Valentine's Day. Yeah, I phoned him. I said,
you were out with your wife?
Yeah, and it was an awkward conversation.
As you should be, of course, as any man should be on Valentine's Day.
She's saying, who's that then?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
That's not Johnny Nash. I said, Johnny Nash?
Yeah.
What are you talking?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So he must have thought, this is a wind-up here. But I actually liked him. I thought, you know what, I've been in his shoes. When an opponent pulls out, I'm going to tell him myself. And I'm high on morphine. And so I phoned him and said, I said, Enzo, look, fight's off, mate. I've snapped my tail tendon. And he went, yeah. All right, see you. And I put the phone, I thought, he don't believe me. That was it, gone to sleep, gone.
In terms of the fight itself, it's an interesting one. I've always thought it would have been an interesting one because you were a mover, you were a banger, but you were kind of caught between weights. I mean, the old cruiserweight limit of 190 would have suited you perfectly because your best performances, you were kind of 13.5, 13.10, something like that. But at the higher weight for you, you had the speed advantage, but they hit harder.
I was going to say, even when I went to 14.4, I think once I went up my boss, Jesper Christensen, I weighed 14.3, but most of the time I was running about 38, 39.
I could never understand how the size of, you're taller than me, and you were like 13.5 stone.
I'm walking around 13.5 now. You know, if we look back, I did win a world title as a cruiserweight, but I should have always been a light heavy guy. But I knew nothing about diet. And I remember you and Dominic in Italy were asking me questions about my weight, how do I make it, and things like that. And you could see your mind's ticking over. I think I told you a lot of bull as well. Yeah. You could see your mind thinking, knew I was going to work on speed.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was just one of them lucky people. I was physically very, very strong, no matter what weight I was, and I hit very, very hard. And I think at the time, with Johnny being a mover, he'd slow down that a little bit. I watched him against, not Cantor, but Dominguez, who's as tough as they come. And you can see his footwork compared to the Cantatore would allow himself to be open for the shots. And I won't be throwing one shot, so I'd have never caught him with one single shot. It'd have been 4s or 5s all the time. But I knew, even at that stage, I knew how hard it would have been.
Yeah. I must admit, that was like, the most frustrating thing about it was, I had no choice. You know, through the injury, I had no choice. And to me, I thought, I had my speech and everything ready in my head. I thought, win the fight, I'm done. But then when I snapped my knee, I thought, nobody's going to believe me. You know, nobody. The night we should have boxed, the day I should have boxed, I was in a hydrotherapy pool trying to learn to walk with pensioners. And I'm like, my head was all over the place. I was done. And I knew then, I should have just accepted then, you're done. And I thought I could get fixed, come back, and at the time, but I'd done. I think once it's gone, it's gone. And so my only motivation to end up fighting him again once I'd had the injury was just to say, right, I've done it. I wasn't hungry. I didn't have the bit between my teeth. I didn't have that fire in my belly. So listen, certain things happened for a reason, and that just was the reason for us.
Does it make it any easier when you have to retire if you are physically not capable of fighting anymore? Because
no.
I do sometimes wonder, though. I remember talking to Darren Barker about this. I said, did it make it any easier that his hip with Darren just wouldn't let you do it anymore, that it's kind of taken out of your hands? Or do you just still, as you just said, just kind of fool yourself?
Yeah, so there's two
you're going
types
to be
of
able to
fighters.
continue?
Would you have ever believed Nigel Benn would have stopped partway through a fight against Steve Collins? Would you ever believe Mike Tyson would have more or less quit on the floor and lost a certain fight? So once that fire's gone in your belly, you think like a civilian. You don't think I'll give my all to win this fight. You think like a civilian. If your head's still in the game and the fire's still there, but your body's saying, I'm not playing, that is frustrating because it drives you insane because you think, I want to do this. And then all of a sudden you end up losing to somebody you should never lose to. And so again, you're left with your frustration of thinking, he should never beat me. I'm much better than that. So it's a vicious circle. So you look at fighters that have walked away from our game on top. Lennox Lewis walked away on top. He was my motivation. And I thought, this guy's retired as a champion. And no matter how much money they've offered him, thrown at him, he said, no, I'm done. I've got to come out. So he's complacent. He's happy with himself. And that is the best feeling ever. But any other way, you know, once your body says, no, I'm done. It's like when you were boxing, I thought you boxed past your best. But you always want to fight. You're a fighting man.
Hunger. And
I'm thinking, Enzo, no, man, because you're better than that. You're bigger than that. But if it's there, it's like a drug. You can't let it go. You're just stuck with it. It's just, there's nothing you can do about it. You'll know more than anybody.
Yeah, it's, who said I probably well past going, even when I fought Bremer, you know, I was probably well past it. And then the eye happened. but I still had that hunger. And, you know, to this day, I think if Gary had pulled me out, I still reckon I would have got to the end because he was tired and I was cashing. But Gary done the right thing, by all means. But it wasn't one thing that popped in my head to quit at that time. And obviously, I still had that desire to keep fighting. And it's hard to explain. It's a drug.
Yeah, some people are born with it. Some people have it till the day they die. You are, Nigel Bennett's. They've got it in the head. They think, I can still do this. Even though your body's saying, no, you can't. Them days are done. And some people, I thought every fight to become world champion, I was fortunate to be in that position. So when I'd done, I thought, I've had a good crack, I've done. But guys like him, I actually thought you were nutters. I thought, these guys are not wide up right because you've got to nail him to the ground to get rid of them. And you'll always think like that going through.
In terms of your careers, though, I would say that you were both you're kind of throwback fighters in a way. You've had the kinds of careers where if you took a young fighter through it fight by fight now, say a young fighter who's turned pro with a big fanfare, they would probably think that you were making some of it up.
Yeah.
Because you always took hard jobs. You never turned down a fight. You never pulled out of a fight. You probably should have a couple of times. You never took a backward step.
I can think of, I should have 100% pulled out. And you talk about taking fights. I think the one that stands in mind, I lost it, but I won the European title out, and I wasn't supposed to take that fight, but I wanted to take that fight, so I took that.
You're 2-0 in Russia. Not many people can say that.
And then it was Alexander Frankel. Now, at the time, Alexander Frankel was the most avoided man in boxing. No one in their right mind wanted to go near him. So I remember sitting there with Frank. He said, "Right then, Enz, we'll give this title up. We'll go this way." I said, "What?" He said, "You know, do you want to face it?" I said, "You what?" He said, "We'll give." I said, "No, I'm not giving my belt up for no one." I said, "I'll fight him, and I'll give it to him." So from that, I trained myself. I was in the gym on my own. I had a stopwatch on the floor. I was hitting the bag. I think I went to Spartasaura once, and that was the only thing I had. And I'd gone in there, and I thought, I'm going to do it now. And I beat him up. We watched the fight, I beat him up. And I think I come back at the end of round 6, and Carl Ince, who helped me in the corner, he said, "Look at him, Enz, he's ready to go." He said, "Just pop that jab in his face, he's going to quit." And I looked at him, and I remember thinking, "Oh, you ready?" So I went to that highlight reel knockout. I got it, wrong way round, but I had the highlight reel knockout. And I always remember after the fight, I was in the changing room, and my jaw was hanging to one side, and he came in, and he was all battered black and blue, and he came in and he just said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I said, "I would have done it to you." And even from that stage, we talk about not wanting to give in, even from that stage, I remember walking outside to go to the hospital to get the jaw fixed, and UK anti-doping was there, and he said, "You've got to have your test." I said, I got to go to the hospital. So I started walking out, and he said, "You'll never be able to box again." And as soon as he said that, I thought, no, after what's just happened to me, I still had in my mind that I wanted to fight again. So I had to wait for about 2 hours with the jaw hanging to one side to have the test.
And Johnny, from your part, I've read your book, and people do remember that fight against De Leon, and they remember what it kind of did to your career. You had a difficult start anyway, well documented the struggles you had as an amateur, and then early stages as a pro. But you took fights in Brazil, you took fights in Thailand, you took sparring jobs in East Germany with Axel Schultz and Henry Mask, where you had to, of a weekend, you had to climb out of the window and raid an orchard just to get something to eat. These are hard yards that you had to put in.
Those experiences, they give you wisdom. And one thing I know is, once I became champion, a true world champion is somebody that can travel the world, fight in anybody's backyard, and come back a winner. And so, and to do that, you will have the confidence mentally and belief that you are the best in the world. I think going away as a sparring partner, going away and boxing in anybody's backyard, fighters don't do that now. And to me, I think it builds confidence, self-belief, experience, character. Fighters just don't do that. And if they did that, it would just give them that edge to think, no matter what you say to me, or no matter what the public says or the so-called professionals say, I know every aspect of our game. So it was the best thing that happened to me, and it changed my career around. Because up to that point, I spent 6 years in and out of Germany, sparring with the best, and France. And I'm thinking, and I was their sparring partner, and I was doing them. I'm thinking, what's the difference between you and me? The difference is you can perform in public, I can't. So when it got to that stage, I then had the belief in myself to say, nobody's going to beat me again. Because I had beaten the best. The schooling these guys had was unbelievable. I was there privy to it. And I could see what they were doing, how they worked on the jab, the footwork, mentality and everything. Sharp on the jab, just the little things. And even though I never boxed like him, I knew what was important to beat this type of fighter. So I thought I had every aspect of the game. Unfortunately, fighters don't do that these days. And unfortunately, that is the one main fundamental thing that's missing. There's no real coaches that are out there that understand the game inside out. You may go to university and tell me how to get super fit, strip my body down, get my cardiovascular system up. But that university degree doesn't tell you about understanding the sport, the psychology
100%.
of our game. They've all gone. There's one or two left. Virgil Hunter, I think he's one of them. And unfortunately, he's not got the fighters that he can practice to do that with. There might be one or two dotted around, but there's none of them left. And that's what makes the very difference between the fighters of today and the fighters of yesteryear. You know, you've got natural fighters, like Enzo was a natural fighter, he's a natural warmonger. And you've got guys like me that the last thing you want to do was fight. You know, I wasn't a hard man, I was a man in a hard job. You know, and that's what made the difference.
Well, I always think with Enzo, if he'd been born 2,000 years ago, he'd have been a gladiator. He'd have loved it. He'd have loved it. He'd been in the centre of the arena like Russell Crowe. Are you not entertained? That would have been what you'd have been all about.
I just said to Enzo, on Saturday, I bumped into Carl Thompson. So he and Carl Thompson were guys who I was fans of watching. Because when you watch him fight, you'd like the knockouts were unbelievable, the heart of the show was unbelievable. I'm like, I used to take my mates, come on, let's watch this guy. Lo and behold, I was to fight these guys. Because I thought, I actually admired the heart, the desire, the attitude they had. I wish I had that, but I didn't have it. And I just thought, if I had that kind of mentality, God knows what I'd been able to do.
So, just to finish with both of you, write your own boxing, not obituary, that sounds a bit dark, but how would you like to be, I'm struggling for the right word there, how would you like to be remembered? What would you like people to say about you in years to come?
For me, it was just someone who never ducked anyone, never turned down a fight and gave it everything he got at every opportunity he had.
For me, I just think no matter what you achieve, as long as you believe in yourself, it doesn't matter what people say you're no good or whatever, as long as you believe and are honest with yourself, you can achieve anything. If I can have 13 amateur fights and win only 3, and end up retiring as undefeated world champion, then what chance has anybody else got? You know, it's just actually believing yourself.
Well, thanks very much for your company, gents. It would have been fascinating to see what would have happened had you met,
we know what would have happened.
13, 14
At that time.
years ago, but it's an easier job for you to sit next to each other and talk about it now than actually to have done it. So thanks very much. That's been really interesting. That's it for this week's State of the Week. Join us again next time.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.